Okay, hello everyone to another episode of the Kuch Bhi Podcast. Today I have with me once more Rahul ji,
Namaskar,
or
namaskar.
A.K.A doomshead.
Yeah.
And today's topic is going to be something which has been trending for a couple of years now, maybe more than that. Not maybe, but definitely. But surely it has become a lot more popular in the last couple of years since the pandemic began, and that is cryptocurrency and how people have become millionaires and people have essentially changed their lives and how many people have gotten scammed as well. So we plan to discuss this and more around this in today's episode. Hope you guys are ready. So doomshead, let's begin with your opinions on crypto and then I'll give you mine.
Satoshi Nakamoto. That is my first opinion.
That's a name, man.
That's a name drop right from the start. So, crypto. I think crypto has been there for a long time. So, if you've been on the internet, if you've been on the Silk Road, if you know what I mean, if you've ever used Tor, you know what crypto is. And if you've been on Reddit, you know what crypto is. Basically, Bitcoin is the most popular form of crypto that is available right now and has been for the longest time. So, um, I personally think crypto is fool's gold right now, and the kind of way it is being pursued, I think it is a huge waste of energy and something that we'll come to regret in the long run. Whereas JozayG is currently invested heavily in crypto. And since we are Indians, there have been a couple of bombshells dropped by the Indian government as well on crypto. So JozayG, with a heavy heart, would you let's have a civil discussion about what are the intrinsic reasons why one should consider crypto, right? With your opening
Sure,
statement.
sure. So, right at the beginning, I want to state one thing that the value of anything is what a group of people decides it should be. Otherwise, nothing in this world basically has value, right? So, if I take the example of gold, why does gold have value? It's because people have chosen to give it value. That's why.
Can
Otherwise,
I
there are more shiny metals in the world, like steel. It's useful as well,
can I
but
add
still,
something?
gold has a higher value than steel. Yeah, sure. Just let me complete.
Okay.
After that, you can provide your
Sure, sure,
comments.
sure.
So, even though steel has a much higher utility than gold, still gold has a higher price. Why? Because people have chosen to give it a higher value just because it's a different color and it has a different shine. So I see digital assets as no different. Cryptocurrency is a digital asset, and any asset or any asset class, the value of any asset or asset class is defined by its value in the market, which is what people are willing to pay, right? If there's a house for sale, the price you're going to get is what price people are willing to pay, right? If you want $1 million for $1,000 house, you can keep waiting for an eternity and you will never be able to sell your house, right? You see where I'm going with this, right? So yeah, you were saying.
Uh, Two things, two things to unpack. One is the comparison with gold. Second is the value. Okay, let's take them one by one. Gold is not valuable because it's a shiny metal. Gold is the most malleable metal on the periodic table. First. Second, it cannot be produced. There's only a fixed amount. So, since it's required in a lot of actual practical purposes for heat dissipation or creating high quality wires and everything, and because of the fact that it is limited and cannot be made, right? It cannot be produced more. There's only a finite amount of gold present on the earth. Okay, so that is why we have a certain value for gold. That is the first thing. The value proposition. Second is the value proposition. The value proposition is not something that is decided by what people say. It is decided by what is the utility of the product, right? A good example is a lot of companies have their IPOs which clock at unreasonable amounts, right? But they see a value correction in the long run because that is where the market speaks. So I think crypto can totally be an asset class, but that is not what my issue with crypto is. The issue with crypto is it is not better than a pair of Jordans. What you are saying is not putting a value to a thing, it is putting a speculative price tag. It is a bidding war, which has nothing to do with the underlying value. Right? So the every second person who's buying crypto is buying because the first person bought it. And every second person who's owning a crypto is saving it because he's betting on the fact that someone is going to take it off his hands at a later stage of time at a higher price than he paid. So it has nothing to do with the underlying intrinsic value. Am I wrong on any of those two facts?
Okay, so your points are absolutely valid and logical, but allow me to further clarify my own points using your points.
Yes.
And let's see if I make sense or not.
Sure.
So, you mentioned that gold is valuable because it has a limited supply and it has use cases in the real world which give it actual value. So, let's to the crypto world, and maybe you already know this, but it is possible to set a lifetime limit of how many tokens can be minted, so to speak, in any given cryptocurrency, which basically means that the supply of any cryptocurrency can be limited at the time when it's basically launched, before people can even start buying it. So that's a technical limitation and it cannot be modified because that's a function of blockchain technology. So blockchain does not allow modification once a record has been made. So once we set a limit to any cryptocurrency to be, suppose, 1 million units, it can't be modified at a later date. I may be wrong in this technically, but even if you have to change this limit, it's going to be a very big job. Basically, you'll have to make a copy of your entire cryptocurrency and then redistribute it. It's going to be very difficult if you want to change the limits on this. And coming to your second point, the real world use cases. So a lot of the cryptocurrency, the quality ones have very useful real world use cases used in high performance real time database related applications and working with very secure and very sensitive data sensitive systems where the information needs to be private and protected from third parties, so that only the sending party and the receiving party knows what data is being transmitted. So that is something that can be achieved by dApps, the digital apps, which are the apps built on blockchain in such a way that there is no approval layer required when you want to perform some action on the blockchain. So what it essentially means is that you can basically program your transactions to execute according to a pre-developed logic. So if you want to say, if you say, suppose tomorrow the price of the US dollar reaches point X, you want to buy X amount of crypto or do some other action which is possible on the blockchain. So that's a concept called smart contracts, and it allows you to basically manage your assets, digital assets, in a more efficient manner and without the intervention of a third party for approval, which may be the case when you're doing it in a manual environment. But the smart contract concept makes it really much more streamlined and has a lot more applications in the real world. So in that sense, there are cryptocurrencies which definitely add real value, and cryptocurrencies by design can be limited in their supply. I don't remember what your third point was.
There were only 2 points.
Yeah, right. So that's my rebuttal,
Good.
so to speak.
I'm glad you took this direction because it becomes easier for me. So, cryptos can be limited, right? Yes, they can, but they are as easily replaceable. Just like you said, one crypto is replaceable by the other, and the second by the third. They all fulfill whatever XYZ job they have. If you want a cryptocurrency, there are a number of cryptocurrencies. Even a person with a basic level of execution or a compiling knowledge can create his own cryptocurrency. Correct? Right?
Yep, that's absolutely true.
Okay. How many?
But I'll allow you to complete before I add my own points there.
Yes. The next question is, how many types of gold do you have on the
That's
periodic table?
I see where you're going with this.
I'm just asking. My question is, the reason I brought up gold is because it's irreplaceable on an elemental level. Okay? But how do you put... So what you are talking about is not value, you're talking about the utility, right? Which from the start I said, yes, crypto is a digital form of currency, right? I accept that, which is great. It is good, right? Because as it is, we have very open standard for currencies. Okay, it is very, very easy to manage and everything. I'm like super happy with that. But what my point is that it is not there's no underlying value to it. There's no value. There's utility, but there's no value. The scarcity factor that you're talking about is artificial. If today you have Bitcoin, it can easily be replaced by with Ethereum, can be replaced by Shiba, can be replaced by Moon or whatever coins you have, right? So that is the first thing that I would like to bring in the conversation, is that none of these are unique. They all fall under the same pool, and this is no different from the currency. A country's currency is same as a crypto coin. It's just that crypto coin is a digital form and end-to-end encrypted. That's it. That is the first thing. Second, you said it's not easily replaceable. Have you heard of Indian demonetization? They replaced physical paper, right? If a government wants, they can replace digital currency. Okay? That can happen and that will happen at some point. And that is my second thing. Third is the decentralization of apps. Yes, but have you heard of torrent?
Yep, sure.
Torrent is a peer-to-peer network. It does not require a file host service, right? It basically means if I have a file and you fall geographically near to my location, your torrent application can download from my host machine, right? You don't need a central FTP server, right? And it is also end-to-end encrypted. I won't know the details of your system, you won't know the details of my system, right? That is a decentralized app. So I don't know how crypto is the first one to do it. It is end-to-end encrypted, yes, so is WhatsApp. No one is reading your messages when you send it on WhatsApp via the server. The only reason why people are able to read your messages on WhatsApp is because they clone your phone. End-to-end AES and SE encryptions are there and they're not broken, right? So I don't know how decentralized apps are going to revolutionize anything, because if anything, they are going to be less reliable. The reason you use... Okay, one question. You use YouTube, right?
Yep.
If I take away all the recommendation and all of those recommendation pipeline that YouTube has, would you still use YouTube?
Probably not, or at least I won't be able to discover new and interesting
That
videos.
is a decentralized app. Why would you not? All the apps, including Facebook or Telegram or WhatsApp, these are the main apps that people bring up when they say we need a decentralized version of these, right? They need DAOs, right? DAO is basically a decentralized, anonymized organization or something. Yes, it is good for anonymity. So is a VPN. So is a torrent. So is an open source operating system. So is Kali Linux. But I don't know why people are throwing so much money in the dumpster fire that is crypto. And why I call it a dumpster fire is because we are currently having a hardware war and burning so much energy out of the finite amount of resources available on our planet to create nothing, basically. So can you imagine if, let's say, Ethereum is going to replace Bitcoin, let's say. If you put a value to how much amount of energy and natural resources were taken out of the earth to produce that much Bitcoin that has been mined till now, can you imagine how that going to waste will affect us? What I mean, are you getting that side of the situation? I mean, it's all going to the waste.
Yep, I get your point.
So why? If you want speculation, you can do it on Jordans. You can do it on Pokemon cards. You can do it on stocks. Stocks have speculative trading. You talked about contracts. There are contract trading available. Cryptos are no different from forex trading. They are no different from your buying puts and shorts. That is exactly what a smart contract on crypto is as well. You just add a layer of end-to-end encryption, which being a developer we can understand that anyone can. It's just implementing a library. I don't see where the intrinsic value lies in cryptocurrencies. All of these things can be mitigated and achieved without the use of cryptocurrencies. Yes, blockchain is a good technology, end-to-end encryption can be achieved. Good, someone will do it, but that doesn't involve Bitcoin. That doesn't involve Ethereum. Why are these currencies being valued at such high level is what I cannot get. So, sorry, I've outstayed my time. And yeah, looking forward to your response.
No, there is no time limit, don't worry. And I'm sure many listeners would have the same doubts. But I hope to at least allay some of the fears or resolve some of the doubts. I'll try to go one by one. I was taking notes while you were speaking, but you mentioned a lot of things, so I'll just start from the beginning. So you mentioned an interesting point. You said that value is different from the utility of something. But I would like to question this statement you made, because isn't the fact that we value something because of the reason because it's useful to us? Why do we value gold? Why do we value gold? Because it's useful to us.
We are not disagreeing. We are agreeing. You are agreeing to my point.
So basically, that's what I said.
Why are you valuing Bitcoin? What has it done till now? You tell me.
No, see, I agree. Bitcoin is a good use case for supporting your point, but Bitcoin is in itself. It's not the most shining example of cryptocurrencies that can actually be useful.
Let's go to Ethereum. What has Ethereum done today that has affected your life, my life, and anyone else's life so much that we are valuing it at 5, 6, 7 times the biggest companies in the world?
Well, Ethereum is a huge ecosystem which supports decentralized apps.
I'm saying, now, what has it done?
Yeah, I'm coming to that.
Okay.
So, as I said, Ethereum is a huge ecosystem of decentralized apps. Now, to understand how Ethereum affects our lives, you have to first understand how decentralization affects your lives and how blockchain affects your lives before decentralization. So, the whole point of discussing cryptocurrencies is because of the existence of a technology called blockchain. And the whole idea behind the blockchain is that it allows to record transactions in an anonymous manner and in a manner which allows no modification of a transaction history. So if I make a transaction tomorrow and it's recorded on a blockchain ledger, the details of my transaction first cannot be used to personally identify me, and second, it cannot be modified in any way and it cannot be deleted. So whatever I do on the blockchain is there forever. It's an indelible ledger of my history, and it's the clearest and the most truthful record of my transactions using that technology. So now that we have established how blockchain is different from other technologies, let's move on to the next step, which is decentralized applications. So what is decentralization? It's a way of removing personal identification of people, right? That's the whole goal behind decentralization. And another goal is you take out the middleman who has to approve or verify or in any way be there in the middle of a transaction before a transaction takes place. So it cuts out a manual middleman kind of structure and replaces it with software logic, which means if else statements, to be precise. So what that means is I can do complex operations which are recorded on the blockchain without having to expose myself as a user, and also without having to wait for my transaction to be approved by another person or another entity. So let me give you a basic example. If I want to do some large transaction in a bank today, and suppose I want to send a huge amount of money, it goes through a lot of networks first, and if the amount is huge enough, it will probably get reviewed by a banker, and they will probably check for irregularities or any other checks which may have, and then your transaction will go through. So if this was a decentralized system, there won't be any middleman who had the capability to stop your transaction or delay it in any way or question you about it, because the transactions will be governed by a set of rules, and if your transaction is within those rule set, it will go through without any hassle, and you will be able to efficiently perform your transaction. For example, if you wanted to send $100 million to another person via cryptocurrency, you would be able to do so, and there will be no one to second guess you or question you or anything like that. Now you may argue that that is a very unsafe way to handle money, but safety is a matter of it's basically subjective. It's subject to interpretation. So you are saying that if a human is sitting there to review it, it will be safer as compared to an impartial machine logic robot. So you're basically trusting a human who can be corruptible, but not trusting software which cannot be corrupted, does not get tired, has all the qualities of an ideal human without the pitfalls, and does not make mistakes unless the logic you coded has a mistake in it. So essentially, the efficiency or security of the system in a cryptocurrency or blockchain or a decentralized app ecosystem is as good as the software logic. Now, I agree that this ecosystem is at a very nascent stage, but over time, as the usage grows and more people begin to adapt it, it will evolve to a level which far outpaces the progress we've made in the traditional system, where we have to include people in the middle of every transaction and spend or waste incalculable hours of human effort, time, resources, and so on. right? So that was regarding the point for utility. I'm coming to the other points as well, and maybe you can do a rebuttal later on. Second point you mentioned was that uh, currency of all the countries are controlled by the government. They control the demand, the supply, not the demand, the supply at least, and they can devalue their currency at any time. And similarly, they can stop the usage of crypto as well. Well, it's to an extent they can do anything, but then countries anywhere are able to do anything to anyone. If they want, the countries in the world can come together and block the internet tomorrow, and that will be a bigger problem than banning cryptocurrency. So as long as there is the internet, cryptocurrency will be used, it can be used, and it will continue to be used. Because as long as there is the internet, you cannot stop something that exists on the internet, because the internet is the biggest decentralized network in the world. It is the biggest blockchain, so to speak, in the world. It's a blockchain in a way you can't see obvious in a direct way, but at the core it's like a blockchain. Once something goes into the internet, it never gets forgotten, so to speak. It's always there. You just have to look in the right place, right? And the internet is the most popular blockchain ecosystem, so to speak. Without the formalized transaction recording and all of the modern blockchain as we call today, but it is the earliest form, I would say, of the blockchain. And nobody can ban the internet, at least not at a very large scale, not at a large scale enough to affect more than 50% of the population. Because if a majority of the population of the world is using the internet, it has served its purpose, right? And similarly is the case with cryptocurrency. If cryptocurrency reaches such a large scale adoption that it is at least 50 to 60% of the internet usage, then that would be the time when cryptocurrency becomes something that no government can stop. It is still something that no government can stop, but they can really slow down the progress by taking certain steps like not recognizing transactions, taxing it at a higher rate, something which is happening in India, and some countries are outright banning it. But there are always ways to circumvent any kind of bans by any countries. As you probably know, I don't need to mention VPNs here. Yep. So that was what I had to say about the government stopping cryptocurrencies. I don't think that's going to happen. They can't fully stop anything, right? And coming back to your third point, anonymity. How is YouTube different from a DAO? So you mentioned that YouTube is collecting all my watch preferences and giving me suggestions, and how it is different from a DAO. The DAO is doing essentially the same thing but without collecting my personal information, like my name, my number, my email ID, my personal identifiable information. It cannot map my preferences to who I am in real life, whereas YouTube can do that. It has all the information, my name, my number, although they claim they don't use that information to map it to my preferences and profile, but they can if they want to. And if tomorrow any government wants to find out what I watch, I think YouTube can probably make it happen, even though they claim that all our information is anonymized. And that is the key difference between a DAO like YouTube and the standard YouTube. And finally, coming to your last point, resource consumption. Yep, the example you chose, Bitcoin, was, yeah, it's not the best representative for cryptocurrency to make a case for resource consumption, because I would agree that Bitcoin definitely does consume a lot of resources, but that is because the design of the Bitcoin cryptocurrency is flawed in itself, and it encourages usage of, or I would say encourages mining, which is how you mint more tokens in Bitcoin. And mining itself makes use of CPU resources, which in turn makes use of electricity, which in turn increases the load on the energy generation structures of the country. So it does use resources, but there are several new upcoming cryptocurrencies which have a much larger footprint, and they don't require so much energy. Why people give cryptocurrency a bad name is because they always, or usually I would say, when they speak about cryptocurrency, they are referring to Bitcoin. And unfortunately, at this date, Bitcoin represents a very large, variety of, not variety, but a large chunk of all the cryptocurrencies in the world today. If you go to coinmarketcap.com today and you customize the view over there to see the relative percentages of the market cap each cryptocurrency takes, you would observe that out of all cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin itself uses up about 43%. So 43% of all cryptos in the world is basically Bitcoin. And that basically explains why crypto has got such a bad name. But as you see, with the increasing adoption of Ethereum and even better and greener technologies like Cardano and other technologies like Dogecoin, which is still at a much better energy consumption state than Bitcoin, you will see that the arguments against crypto as far as resource consumption is concerned, they will go in the favor of cryptocurrency. And let's not forget that traditional paper currency, you are using paper, you are cutting down trees to print that paper. That is also consuming resources, maybe not at such a large scale, but still it's using up paper. You are cutting trees, you are depleting the ozone layer, you are still harming the environment. Either way, it's just a matter of time when crypto reaches a level where it causes much less harm and does much more good as compared to the traditional currency. Yep. So that was a long monologue from me. I hope it made sense.
I hope to the listeners, to me obviously. I think it was a lot of things that I've already heard. Okay, let's go back. I don't want to go into a long-winded answer. The thing about decentralization is, yes, you can have decentralization, but that has nothing to do with, once again, that has nothing to do with the blockchain. You quoted an example of internet, but internet has nothing in value related to Amazon. Amazon uses internet, right? Hence, Amazon is one of the most valued companies, right? But just because internet exists doesn't mean internet is the most valuable thing. That is the first thing, right? It is just not because you have blockchain suddenly that becomes the most valuable thing. No, anonymized things are already there. You quoted VPN. You can have anonymized viewer watching. You are already recording. We are already set up in this podcast with Brave browser, right? Which is already anonymized. You already have Tor in the world. Okay, so that is what my point is. These are just refurnished technologies that are being valued at a very high level. So, that is the first point. And the second thing is, although crypto is anonymized, I don't think the wallets are. If you go on CoffeeZilla, you can see CoffeeZilla is a very famous YouTuber. 90% of the crypto scams he can trace back to the wallets. So if you want to do $100 million transaction, $100 million transaction, or $100 million worth of crypto transactions, so I think you'll still be able to find it. The only reason you say it is 100% anonymized is because no one has put in trackers in place to track it. Trust me, the $100 million transaction is going to raise red flags, whether you do it via any source, right? So that is still going to happen. No one is going to allow you to do $100 million transaction via crypto. That is not going to happen in reality. Trust me. Thirdly, you said internet cannot be stopped. Have you heard of China? There's no Google, there's no Facebook there, right? Most of the VPNs are illegal there. There are only a couple of VPNs that do work, and even those are secretly providing backdoor information to them. Apple is one of the most pro anonymity companies. They have their user data stored in a server in China. So the only reason you think it cannot be censored is because you're not looking in the right direction. It can be. All it takes is a slap on the wrist from the government and it will be censored. That's it. There's nothing that cannot be made illegal by the government. All they have to do is say it's illegal to accept bitcoins. That's it. And if you hold a lot of bitcoins, it's worth $0 if you can't spend it. So unless you are a drug dealer, I don't see a lot of use cases in that. Yeah, so that is basically my point. And the point about DAO, yeah, it's encrypted. Google does not have your information, but Google did not ask for your information. You gave it to them because they gave you a service. The anonymized application version, we already have them. They are called open source softwares. No one person controls an open source software. Linux is not controlled by one person. Linux is not written by one person. An open source video editor is not written by one person. So decentralized are same as open source softwares. They are just hosted on people's computer rather than a central computer. That is the only difference. So yeah, that is how I view those points. Thoughts?
Yep, some very good points. Although I would still have a lot of points to reply back to you, but this would result in a never-ending discussion.
Like it usually is.
I agree with your point on China, but I had also mentioned that barring some countries, the majority of the population in the world still enjoys free internet.
It's about time because in India, porn is banned. You can't watch it without a VPN.
Yep. Well, as long as there are laws, people will find ways to break them, I guess. You can't stop the evolution of technology. You can just slow it down, I think. That's my opinion. Hopefully, other people also have the same opinion. Otherwise, the world will not progress.
Oh, wow.
But speaking of progress, we have to stop the progress of this episode for now. It was a very interesting discussion. Lots of points raised on both sides. Both sides had, very valid points. I mean, I would not like to speak about myself because I believe I was valid, but I would like to definitely point out that your points were definitely valid. I agree with all of those, and those are extremely, the kind of points which makes you wonder if you should even consider crypto. But then again, crypto is not for the faint of heart, at least not at this point. But I believe that as with any new technology, it has to evolve. It has to reach a stage where the masses can make some sense of it. And until that time, we should be extremely careful while dealing with crypto. And I would say at least not put your life savings into crypto. If you plan to invest in crypto, please make sure that you only invest whatever you are comfortable with losing. Do not take risks. And yep, be responsible and take your financial matters in your own hand and do your research before
Yep.
doing anything with crypto. At this point, I would agree with doomshead and say that at this point, crypto is essentially like gambling, at least for the vast majority of the
That's the
crypto.
only line I wanted to hear. Thank you.
At least for the vast majority of cryptocurrencies, which are not of high quality. Although the coins which I myself hold, I think they add value to the world, and those I don't consider as gambling.
Yes.
Bringing it back, circling it
Sure.
back to my point.
Sure.
So, with that being said, I think we can finally bring this episode to a close. Thanks a lot for listening. Thanks, Doomset, and wish you all the best in your crypto journey and see you in the next episode. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.